Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Black Advancement. I am your host, Ajiman Jasante Goodman. On the screen, I have with me Antoine Smallwood, Greg Goodman, Maurice Franklin, and at the bottom, Takara Mosley. And you guys know what we do in this position when we're in this position. Welcome, everybody. We are part of Black Advancement Incorporated, which is a nonprofit organization that looks to combat the problems of the Black community through action and dialogue. First, before we get into our topic today, which is TV imagery, let me put you on to a little bit of the front street. When we first created Black Advancement Incorporated approximately 10 years ago, many of the groundbreaking and free-spirited shows with Black leads and themes did not exist. Think about that sentence, less than 10 years ago. There were no Atlantas, no Insecures, no Luke Cages, no Blackish, Get Out, no Black Panther, Girls Trip, so on and so forth. Only recently have the executives of major studios believed in what we as a people have known all along. We are an ingenuous people with the wide breadth and depth of experiences and stories that, while relatable to all, are uniquely Black. Be that as it may, media overall continues to focus on all the negative stereotypes applied to Black people as often as ever, turning tragic situations like the murder rate of a predominantly Black city into an indictment on our humanity and using it to support excuse me, the policies that helped create such situations in the first place. But I digress from that point. We are here to talk about the continued negative imagery we are subjected to in the Hollywood shuffle and the news cycle, and to see if TV imagery truly contributes to the destruction of the Black community. So with all that being said, I'm gonna go into the first question. I'm gonna come to Takara first on this question. Get yourself ready there. Do you believe the news, entertainment, and social media coverage of the Black community is overly critical in your eyes? Why or why not? You're on mute, by the way.
Oh, okay. There we go. I'm back now. Okay. Now, I would say overall, yes, it is. I would say that it is negative portrayal. However, I think that to some extent we contribute and sometimes partake in some of that. And I also believe that the narrative is beginning to change, which is what you talked about, where they are, where we are, becoming, we're getting more Black executives and creators, and people are showing a different side of us and showing us in different roles, which is, I'm ecstatic to start to see more of that for us. And even so much in recent, like maybe the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm excited to see what's coming.
Maurice.
Yeah, I think it's definitely overly critical, I guess, of the community. I think it's pretty narrow-minded as well when it comes to the portrayal of our community. Like Takara said, I think at times we do ourselves a disservice by pushing that sometimes those TV narratives to the forefront. But I do think that in the past, I think we've always had we had some really good shows. I don't know where that break kind of came at some point, like, because we had your Fresh Princes, your Cosby shows, your different worlds, and then for some reason there was like a break in that, and then it started getting overly, I don't want to say aggressive, but it just seemed like it got really aggressive, and then it stopped showing the well-roundedness of our community. It just said, no, this is who you guys are, just in this little pocket, and it stopped focusing on the differences that we do have, or that we do portray.
Greg.
I would say the news definitely portrays us horribly. So that's the main one for me. Most stories that have Black faces in them are really either there's very little positive outside of Sports Center dealing with Black people on the news, on any kind of news cycle. So there's that. I mean, even when we had a Black president, you go to certain stations, it's all bad news for the black president. So the news to me is probably the most critical. Entertainment, it goes in cycles. You know what I'm saying? Like Maurice was saying, it's almost like every 10 years there's a break in black television. Because remember in the 70s they had like Good Times, What's Happening, and all that stuff. Then there was a huge break, and then there was the Cosby Show, A Different World, and all that. Then there was another break, and now we're in this era right now of black entertainment, so to speak. And if we have control over it, most of the time it's positive. It's when we deal with other networks that are outside of ourselves where it tends to look a little negative.
I'll push back on that in a second. What you just said, like with the whole Tyler Perry aspect of how some people are viewed within our own communities.
Well, I can talk to you about
the story, I should say. It wasn't really.
Well, since you brought up Tyler Perry, I can say this about Tyler Perry. I have a whole lot of respect for Tyler Perry as far as him as a businessman and what he's done for black people in his life. Even though a lot of his shows are really borderlining on coonery, if not full out coonery a lot of times, there's a whole lot of step and fetch it going on up in his work. But what he's done with that that storyline, or the things that he's done as far as that goes, he's also built a solid place for blacks in Atlanta to work and get their creativity out and all those things. Yeah. So with someone like that, you have to take the positive with the negative. So there's that. So
I ask a quick question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Maurice.
Actually, I apologize. Go ahead, Maurice.
Just kind of based off of that statement with Tyler Perry and some of his things being borderline buffoonery. Where's the line between comedy and buffoonery when it comes to black people? Because I feel like if it depends on your audience as how it's perceived. Because when I watch this stuff, I'm like, yeah, I've seen those personalities in plenty of people. But to me, and so it's entertaining to me. I don't think it's making fun of black people. I just think it's a portrait or portrayal of some of the people that he's seen or met in his life.
Okay.
Then other people are like, well, it's cooning. And I'm like, where's that line?
Antoine, you can go ahead and
jump in. Like Mr. Brown, sir. You've never met him.
Yes, I have. Yes, I absolutely have.
Actions and aspects, you've never met any dude that's dressed up like a clown with ashy knees, running around talking about some, oh, we gonna come over here, Claretta. Well, you've never seen that person.
I have. I have.
Yeah, I forget.
Antoine, I want to hear Antoine's perspective on that.
Yeah. All good. So I think to touch real quick on the news aspect, absolutely, it's heavily critical of the community. I'm going to lean on Greg's statement about Sports Center, right? So the news goes out and does a Sports Center of what is the worst they can find with black people. So if a black person is killed, right, by the cops, instead of them highlighting like, hey, the cop that killed them, is like they show the family picture, they show them graduating school. With the black person that's murdered, it's like there was that one picture of them with a gun or where they smoked weed. None of that having to do with why they were murdered or killed, by the way. It's just how bad can we make them look? It went from the theme of like Chicago and look at all the murders happening in Chicago. And granted, it's very bad and obviously it has to stop, right? But here's the key with that. Where's the news cycle when it's positive things that's happening? I think there was the guy before his recent scandal, Robert Smith, that was giving money to students who are going to be graduates and whatnot to handle their business. Where's the things we have guys like, the billionaire, Rob Smith or something, or sports athletes like you got LeBron James building a school. There's not enough news cycle around stuff like that, is to focus on his activities when he was in South Beach, or Marshawn Lynch, who goes out there and does a lot of things that people don't hear about, There's no news cycles or coverage for that. It's like anything with black people that they can deem to be negative. It's like, we're going to continue this as we've done for the last 50, 60 plus years of basically a continuous smear campaign. I find that to be problematic. Entertainment wise, I definitely can touch on that firsthand. And I think that ultimately we actually contribute to that more than others do. We're not in 1950 anymore. We're in 2020. You have the ability to create your own platforms. And I'll agree with everyone on that. I do agree that Tyler Perry has created something that's special, right? And that is that he created a studio. You know, we haven't had that since, I want to say, Oscar Michaud, 1929 or something like that. I remember doing an internship with one of the few Black studios there were at the time, which was Tim and Daphne Maxwell Reed. They're in like Northern Virginia and Petersburg, in the middle of nowhere. But people weren't creating. Nobody was going there to partner. It was none of that happening. So I'm very happy to see Tyler Perry doing that. When I look at narratives and the things that are damaging out there, whether it's in his work, whether it's in music, you know, the guys who are behind the scenes pulling the strings to make these artists release certain things, you know, that impacts our community heavily. And nobody's ever looking at it and saying, man, Will Smith was getting 20 million a movie since 1996. Why did he never create a movie studio like Tyler Perry? Tyler Perry was, I think, homeless at one point or what have you.
Correct.
Denzel's been getting that for a grip, you know. Again, I think he came into it around the same time as Brad Pitt in terms of the $20 million movie club. Why are you not building that? He went into directing, and that may be more his passion. But why not take somebody who has the vision to create something where you have complete ownership? We shouldn't have to go through Warner Brothers Studios and all these traditional lots, you know, to create and tell our narratives and our stories. When you look at something like the movie The Help, I don't know if you guys ever remember that movie. Now you have good. I went into it with a great open mind and thought, you know, it was going to be solid, but it was almost like, you know, it's the white savior thing where it's like, hey, now you got Viola Davis and Octavia Spencer, my apologies, out there saying they kind of wish they didn't do the movie now because of you didn't hear the maids' voices. You know, we joked earlier about the slave play and what are the slaves going to say, but what would they say? You know, what would the maids actually say? I guarantee you it wouldn't be the movie that you get on TV where it's like, these folks are so nice to the maids. That's not what happened in real life, you know? I'm almost 40 years old. I got great grandparents that are from that era and time that'll tell you it was pretty shitty. You know, it was really bad and it was nowhere near as nice as the portrayals we get on TV. With entertainment, I just find that there's so many better ways about it. And to Maurice's point, art is subjective. So whereas he may not find it offensive, you know, I might see a Tyler Perry flick with, you know, Shamar Moore and them, and there's the bad boyfriend again that's abusive and all that. You know, and it's like,
we'll talk about.
now, you know, it like movie after movie and TV show after TV show, you're like, who are you? Who are these people? You know, it's almost like a hit job. It's like, yeah, I come with this studio, but here's the content I'm going to put out. You know,
that's what I was, because my wife watches like Sisters on, I don't know what network that's on. Takara, you too?
I know.
And she was like, and I was
just like,
yo, this storyline is the same storyline, and I understand that he has a formula that he follows, and it's gotten him from homeless to a studio. So who am I to judge, right? I mean, like, honestly, and we're all happy that he's done that. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. And Maurice, what you had touched on as far as where's the line and who's drawing the line of coonery and comedy, that is something that is, to me, like the premise behind this topic as far as like, go ahead, Greg.
Where the line is for me, the line is when you feel like we're being laughed with, or then there's it crosses over when it feels more like you're being laughed at. And that's where the line is.
I agree.
And that's why
when you become the butt of the joke. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I said that's why Dave Chappelle ended up quitting his own show, because he thought he felt like he crossed that line where it was there were people laughing at him instead of with him.
Right.
And lack of understanding of what he was trying to do. I think that's where the line is.
But do you think that's more because of the audience? Because I think if he's in a room with a bunch of Black people showing those same sketches, I think it hits differently than if he's in a room with a bunch of white people watching the sketches and they're laughing. Like, it's just.
You're exactly right. Like I said, it's understand.
And this is a personal story of mine, and then I'm gonna let Takara jump in. I remember I was watching Trading Places. I grew up watching Trading Places with Eddie Murphy, right? But I had never watched it with white people. And a certain scene came on and they were laughing, and I was like, what the? You know, I looked over like, what are you laughing at, buddy? You know what I mean? But it's supposed to be, it was something that was funny to everybody. But when you see them laughing at something that you laughed at, your interpretation of what they're laughing at is different. Like, it's just, it makes the whole experience different. Let me let Takara go, Greg, and then you go in after that.
All right, go ahead.
No, I think you guys are covering it, because I think there's some good and some bad. You know, I mean, I agree with the idea of it is, are we being laughed at versus, you know, are we laughing with? I mean, I understand that Tyler Perry is definitely controversial, but I think that we also may not. So the other piece is that when you are, like, if you think about Hollywood, I mean, not even just the news, because the news, it's just like, so we are a small percentage, we make up a small percentage, and unfortunately, when you make up a small percentage, whether it be the news, whether it be on TV and movies, it's very easy for the negativity to kind of stand out over the positivity. And I think that's often sometimes like what's missing for us is that we're already underrepresented. And then what we do see is like, negativity. Again, it can just really feel, it makes it that much more pronounced. Versus, I mean, if you think about white people and they're not happy with everything that they make either, but does that mean that, I mean, it's like Tyler Perry, I feel like gets some undue criticism. I think he's done some great things, and I agree with Maurice.
Yes.
First of all, he's rich because lots of people identify and like to see themselves on TV in a tasteful manner. Some people feel like that's tasteful versus somebody else telling our story and, maybe feeling like it's off-putting, the way that they describe our story, or, some of our buffoonery that's very indicative of the Black community, the way we talk, the way we behave, some of the things that we, engage in. So
I guess the problem I have is with Tyler Perry is this, and I agree with everything you just said, except for one thing. Tyler Perry came down and had an opportunity, it was either last year or the year before, with a group of Black writers who kind of had like an issue with him, right? Because he basically fired them all and said, I'm going to write all my scripts. I'm going to produce it. He's basically doing it all, soup to nuts. And their thing was, you're telling one aspect of the Black experience, and you're, even through comedy and everything, Medea, it has its time in the sun and is great for what it is, but there's other stories to be told, and there's other vantage points to be told, or the stories rather being told from that vantage point. And when he didn't want to, one, pay them, which was a real lawsuit that still I might be actively live, that was a major issue. You have to ask yourself, why wouldn't you? You've done amazing things. Why wouldn't you want other people to tell their story? We're 5 people on the call right now, but in this meeting, but guess what? We all have 5 totally different stories, in life, and that's at different stages of life. So you're talking about a writer whose job is to kind of go out there and tell somebody's perspective or this individual story, which is important. Why would you block that from happening? Because we get that enough where, and I've been in a writer's room where, guess what? There maybe is 2 Black people, if you're lucky, out of 10 or 12, and the rest of them are white guys, mostly guys, very rarely women. And they have a very narrow view of how they view Black people and the Black experience. And usually if it gets too real for them, and I think at the height of it was like, I was a kid in the 90s, right? Boys in the Hood. White people thought that was too far. And I'm like, oh, that's just the beginning. That's like the edge of it. There's a lot more you can go into detail with. They don't want to do that. It must be told a certain way. There must be even if there was no white characters in there, right? Because it's all Black people, it doesn't mean it's a Black movie. It's a story, and that's one of the things that I think gets lost in the sauce. You have to be able to understand that if we have control of something, we should be able to let it flourish and take control of that narrative. And I think that he misses a lot of opportunities with that by not granting writers of color to be able to go out and, handle their business in that space. And he would give a nice, safe space for that,
I mean, so here's the thing. My only issue is like Tyler Perry does not have to do everything for the Black people, okay? And this is a problem, like that we think like when somebody makes it, how everybody is upset about Oprah, it's Oprah's money and Oprah can do what she wants with it.
No,
do we all agree? No, maybe she should have schools here. Maybe she should do, I mean, what she do with her money that she created is her business. What are you doing? And that's what we're doing. We on here talking about this today, right? So I agree that, it would be nice if Tyler Perry would expand his horizons, but he doesn't have to. This has been working for him. It's working great for him, and people love it, and he's very successful at it. But there's other people. There's Jordan Peele, Dave Chappelle. I don't know what he's doing. Could he be doing more developing programs? I mean, now networks really are doing some expansion where they are allowing more Black people. You got Issa Rae, we got Jordan Peele, we have I'm sure there's more that I'm not thinking of. Shonda Rhimes just signed like $300 million or something with Netflix, didn't she? Maybe 30 million. I could be wrong on the figure, but it's a huge number where she left ABC. Was she with ABC? Where she was doing
she
Grey's
left
Anatomy?
Disney, I think, yeah, or whoever. Same difference.
She left, yeah, she left that major network, you know, it was over a Disney pass is why she left. And, you know, so, I mean, I think that we are in a period where, yes, like you said, we're going through cycles and people are doing things, but there's avenues for everybody to do everything. And Tyler Perry does not have to do everything. He's done what he's done. It was great. It's opened doors for other people. And that should be enough. He should not have to get all of this like criticism for not doing what everybody else thinks he should do.
Greg, I'm gonna let you go ahead and talk real quick, and then I'm gonna go to the guy on the couch.
Oh, okay. Well, I said nobody's here trying to dog Tyler Perry out. Like I said, I think he's done a great thing, and he's done a great service to Black people.
But y'all just did.
Yeah, I said, huh?
I mean, y'all did. Don't say y'all wasn't trying to dog him out. Y'all did just dog him out. He not painting Black people in the light that y'all think that he should be. You know, he should paint them in. You don't think that he should expand more writers. Now, if he not paying folks right now, that's
a real thing.
That's a more questionable thing. And, you know, like you say, if there's lawsuits going on about that, okay, you know, but I do wonder, I'm like, there's a whole nother problem with Black people. We can be so overly critical within our own community.
That's also
we need to be more critical outside of our community. We need to be taking that fight elsewhere. You know, I mean, they suing him. How many of them sued their white bosses and employers that they worked with in the past? But, you know, we now gonna go and sue, you know, him? Like you say, white people have been doing this stuff for us for years.
To be fair, no one does to Jerry Seinfeld. No one does to like a Martin show like what they would do to Jerry Seinfeld show. As far as like looking at it being hypercritical.
Yeah. I mean,
myself, I know I'm guilty of it. Greg,
critical of Seinfeld?
No, I was just talking about like how people can watch a show like Give Me a Break and be like, yo, they're out there cooning. And if someone watches Jerry Seinfeld, Jewish people aren't gonna be like, they're out there cooning. You know what I mean? Like they're not gonna be as hypercritical. And I know that I'm like that personally. Like I know that I am like that. Greg, go ahead, man, so I can get to the guy on the couch. I'm sorry.
Oh, what I was trying to say is I think what he's done is all very positive. Now it's like you said, it's his money and his characters. He can do whatever he wants to do, and I know that. And there's no way he would get that rich if people didn't like what he was doing. So you know, fair enough. You know, play ball, do your thing. I'm just saying that as a perspective of a lot of people, it comes really close to the line where you don't know if white people are judging all Black people based on the character that he's putting out. Like if you live in the middle,
they were already judging us, so it don't matter.
Fair enough, but I don't want them to further go on the judgments based on Tyler Perry's some of the characterizations that Tyler Perry has put forth. Like I don't want someone coming up to me and assuming that I'm just like him. I don't want that. and trying to be in that manner, like I'm some kind of idiot. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the guy on the couch, and then we're gonna come back to this conversation. Guy on the couch, what you got for the first question?
First question: do you believe the news, entertainment, and social media coverage is overly critical in your eyes? Why or why not? RC says, "Don't shoot the messenger. The media portrays Blacks as society sees them. Black people pay to see Black drug dealers and gangster movies. We worship the convicts and hate the educated. All of us will know, but enough of it to make it worthwhile to the media to perpetuate these stereotypical stories. If people wanted to see movies about Jesus and love, they would show up and buy tickets, but they don't. The only issue to me is if the representation is factual, if a person actually did what was said. Anything above that is simply the ratio of reporting Black people's crimes, misbehaviors, and stereotypes more frequently than others. On the news, I'm not even sure it's the ratio, it's the word choice and production. Blacks are quote unquote thugs and whites are misguided. Many times Blacks are represented as having committed a crime and those of other colors just made mistakes. A Black criminal will quote unquote molest a child, another color will have sex with an underage woman. These things matter. anyone who thinks these things don't matter, why did you buy a Pepsi or Starbucks or Dial soap? It's marketing, and it works. Back to you.
Wow, that's great. Great one from RC. It brings up a lot of different points. You guys take on it. Anybody can go.
Yeah, I think that's even evident. Like we'd mentioned Sports Center and how, you know, that's one of the few times where Black people get praise, you know, more often than not. But then again, when you look at, you know, your Rob Gronkowski's and then your Odell Beckham Jr.'s and how they describe both of them, you got Rob Gronkowski who just goes out there and acts like a complete idiot all the time. But they just say, hey, he's just a guy out there having fun. He just likes to have a good time. And then Odell, when he's out there dancing or having a good time, showing emotion or whatever it is, oh, he's a cancer to the team. You know, you got to get rid of him. He doesn't know how to act. You know, he's got to learn how to behave himself, to conduct himself like a professional. And those kinds of things are ridiculous. And so I think that, you know, you see that all the time where even though we're all behaving like humans, like we just do our thing. And sometimes we show a lot of emotion. Sometimes we don't, when people feel like we should. But the reporting on that is always different. Nobody talks about the drug-filled white neighborhoods that are there. You know, this opioid epidemic is happening right now, and it's tearing their communities apart. But nobody's talking about it. They're just talking about, oh, we need to build rehab systems, and we need to figure out how to save them. Whereas then in the Black community, they're like, oh, these people are out of control. They don't know how to act. They're selling drugs. They're killing each other. They're violent. They're tearing their community apart.
That's because it's
need
the
to lock them up.
suburbs. That's because it's the suburbs, with,
Even
you know,
when it's
and
not
they
the
have money,
suburbs.
and they show up to the community planning meetings to make sure that, you know, their neighborhoods continue to look good.
But
You know, without violence and without methadone treatment. You know, when those treatment centers are planned to be in their communities, oh, they show up to their community centers. I mean, to their, you know, community planning meetings and say, no, we don't want this. I mean, they've done that for gas stations. I mean, I don't want to say white people, but it's white people. And, you know, affluent white people are very much, they are in control because they do what it takes to keep the control. They raise taxes, they show up, you know, they go to meetings, which we talked about in previous, roundtable discussions and the symposiums.
They're very squeaky wheel. They're very squeaky wheel in terms of.
Yeah, like you say, they do what it takes to control the narrative, which is unfortunate. And, you know, again, I'm glad that we you know, have these symposiums to talk about that, because like you say, we need to start thinking about what can we do, and fighting each other. Black people, as Black folks, us being upset with each other is not gonna make it. We got to unify about something and get it done together, not be upset with each other for not doing what we want and not thinking alike.
I think we're out there just as much fighting for our communities as they are. I think the only difference is we don't have that position of power to make and change and determine where those fundings are going. So we just end up on the short end because it's the same county, it's the same community, but for whatever reason, in the Black populated neighborhood from this street on down, the streets look terrible and it's not maintained. Whereas from this street on up, they get it maintained. And I can guarantee you everybody is at these meetings talking about, it may not be thousands of people, but there's always 20, 30 people that are there like, hey, we need to fix our streets. We need this, we need that. It just doesn't happen to trickle down to our communities.
Anyone else have anything to touch on with Rob real quick? Rob's comment or RC's comment, I'm sorry.
No, he's 100% right about just this. Everything is just put in different perception when it comes to Black and white things. Like a gangster movie is a gangster movie. Like The Godfather, these guys are looked at as geniuses, but Nino Brown's looked at as a thug. But they're both running criminal organizations and murdering people. You know what I'm saying? It's the same cycle that they use in the news. Like, you know, young Black man killed.
They control the narrative.
Exactly what you were saying. They control the narrative. Like I said, it's the reason why there's not a whole bunch of Black serial killers, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Because serial killers is something that's supposed to be a smart person who does things methodically and everything else. So with the news, they'll get that kind of caveat of being somebody who's smart about killing their victims. And a black dude to kill someone is just automatically a thug. See, even when you're doing wrong, they make a way to make their things look better than ours.
Yep.
So it's all about
Yep.
narrative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you guys, but Nino Brown was a straight up thug. Okay. I don't know how you guys feel, but that's how I feel. Antoine, you want the last word on this one?
No, I agree with everybody and everything they said on this. Absolutely. All points hit home.
Okay. Indeed. Let me just go ahead and plug people to the website, which is www.blackadvancement.com. On there, if you ever feel like you want to be a part of one of our topics or anything of that nature, but you feel like you don't have the background knowledge, we have a research section where you can go and research. We have different articles that we pull from all different perspectives to help you get your own grasp of the topics that we go over. Speaking of topics, you got one in mind that we don't have on our website? Why don't you give them one to us? We can put it on our topics page where we have all of our topics listed, including the one that we're discussing today, which is TV imagery. Also, we do events. Well, not so much this year, as you know, COVID, Anyway, but when we do events, we do them big. We do them big style. You should come out to some of them, and we will advertise them when they are due out. And we usually update them on the events that we have going on within our organization. Also, another section that we have is called the In History section. As I said before, the only thing that's been in our In History section right now is the Lost Cause narrative, which talks about how the Civil War was lost by the South, but the aftermath of it was won by the South. So with all that being said, we'll go back to into our topic, which is TV imagery. Question number 2. Question number 2, does a black actor or actress choice in a role diminish or uplift them in your eyes? Yes or no? And for this one, I'm going to start with Antoine.
Excellent question. One that's really taboo, I think, in the acting community. For me personally, I used to say yes, but I think about 15 plus years into this, I'll say no, it doesn't, because here's why. Everybody gets into it for something different in terms of acting, in terms of their ability to tell stories and, actually tell someone else's narrative, right? So when an actor makes a choice to take a position on something like, hey, this role is going to be a drug dealer, whether it's Omari Hardwick with Power, if you go back to Nino Brown, if it's the story of a sex worker, whatever it is, everybody's story deserves to be told. Somebody's going to tell it ultimately. The first role I ever had was titled Ready for It, Slave. So it just was, and it's literally that, right now to this day. And so it's just one of those things that you kind of look at it like, okay, is it about getting in the door, or is it about telling the story? Who hasn't heard this story? And even if this story has been told, has it been told from this perspective? So I don't know if it really diminishes them in my eyes, but I think the further one gets along in their career, I would question doing a certain kind of role at that point if, the option is there to kind of, do other roles.
Fair enough. And that I will come back to you because I want to ask you in particular, but everybody, of course, can chime in about the pressure of feeling the pressure of having to take a role such as that, and maybe the back and forth of that in your head. But with that being said, Greg, what you think about it?
Honestly, I think it depends on where you are in your career if you're an actor. So I'm not an actor, so I don't know if some people start off in the horror films doing goofy stuff like Jamie Lee Curtis, and before you know it, they're doing real big things. You know what I'm saying? So I think once you get to a certain level within your career, then you can make the ultimate decisions on what roles you should you feel are worthy for you to accept. But once again, like I said, I'm not an actor. I have no idea about any of these things. I'm just saying from the perception of someone who watches TV. If you get to a certain level, you should stop doing goofiness, unless you're in the business of goofiness. You know what I'm saying? If you're a comedian and you do funny stuff, then you can continue to do funny stuff. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's mad at Jim Carrey for bouncing back and forth, or Jamie Foxx for bouncing back and forth, or anyone else. Right. Just once you get to a certain level, you have to have a certain standard for yourself, and that's what it is. And that all depends on whoever that actor is. So I don't have a problem with any role that they take. Is once they get to a certain level, you know what I'm saying? If you're starting out, you're starting out. You got to get in where you fit in.
And that's what we bring here at the Black Advancement, nothing but expertise. Takara, You next. Go ahead.
I mean, I think that, you know, it's nice to see more Black faces on TV and in a variety of roles. I'm glad that those things are out there. And I think, you know, as far as you being an actor, you should do what you know, feel is best, because it's not, you know, about where you came from, it's where you're going, you know, and we do now have the power to, you know, be going in different directions and, you know, have more roles. There's, you know, lots of different, you know, variety, but, you know, I mean, I think it just depends on what the actor or actress wants to do.
Maurice.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. I don't think it diminishes them at all. I mean, that's their profession. Like, I don't think that for some of us, depending on, you know, what our profession is, some of our employers do some pretty questionable things. And with us continuing to work there and excel in our personal professions doesn't mean that diminishes our work. That's just what we do, you know. And so I don't think that them deciding what roles they want to take for their own personal career has any, you know, bearing on them, unless they are doing something like if every time they get in a movie and they're playing a Black version of Simple Jack, and that's what they're saying, that's how they believe Black people are,
Yeah.
Then I have a problem with it. But
Right.
yeah.
And I think I want to bring back something we talked about earlier about the Black community kind of being like our heaviest critic. So Issa Rae, I greatly admire a lot of the stuff that she's done. I watched her career from before anybody knew who she was, right? There's a movie she did recently that was called The Photograph.
Yeah.
So she caught a lot of flack for doing The Photograph because she spoke of wanting to kind of tell, I guess, what people would deem boring stories. You know, when you watch The Photograph, it's a story being told, but there's nothing really exciting in the movie. It's nothing that's going to jump out of the seat at you. It's just a story of two people kind of coming together, their love stories, and that story is layered. And so I think we have to get in the mindset of, you know, look, don't think that this person can only go out and do an insecure type of position. You know, if they desire to tell these other kind of stories, let them be told. You know, it needs to be told because it's reaching out and touching somebody at some point. You can jump from that to what was the movie Big, you know, where it was the Regina Hall and they do like a body swap thing, like a Freaky Friday thing, and the young girl, you know, and again, people are like, oh, you know, it's the same kind of comedy and this, that, and the third, and it's like, no, but that's what they do. That's their superpower. That's their strength. You know, everybody, you know, Thor isn't supposed to swing like Spider-Man. You know, everybody has their own abilities. Let them, you know, keep magnifying that and, you know, growing that. That's kind of what they're good at, you know?
So one of the things that popped into my head when it came to this question in particular was the whole thing that happened with Denzel back in the day when he won for Training Day, and he hadn't won for anything else that he had done, like Malcolm X and all the other stuff that he had done. And the Halle Berry thing, where she had seemed like she had taken principal roles, and then it got to the point where she was like, I'm just going to show these boobies and get $5 million for each boob that I show. So it's like, you know, it was one of those things where I was like, I always thought to myself, I was like, does that change the way now? And in their particular case, like with Denzel, I was frustrated that he had won for that role personally. But I also was like, well, why is it that they recognized him for that role? You know what I mean? Like, so I didn't blame him necessarily as much. I was a little more critical of Halle Berry because of the film that she decided to be to act different was Monster Ball with Billy Bob Thornton, and he's you know, it's Billy Bob Thornton, man. I mean, like, why are you doing that for Billy Bob Thornton? Why are you doing that for, you know, Wesley Snipes can't, you know, Wesley Snipes, you know, never mind, just forget it. But that was just fine. That was kind of like where the genesis of this question kind of came from. But from that perspective, I was thinking of that.
I think they both ended up getting their Oscars because they played in roles that were so opposite of their normal character, personally. So I was happy for both of them.
That's fair.
Regardless, because Halle Berry is usually not out there sleeping with hillbillies, and Denzel Washington is usually the good guy. So they both went outside of their normal box that they do and did the roles that they and played those roles that were separate from their normal character, and they did a great job doing it. So I think that's the reason why. And Denzel was about due, so he had 2 or 3 Oscars before then. but he was about due and he did something that was outside of his normal realm. I feel like that's why he got it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's a matter of, and it took a long time to really be honest with myself. Why do we put so much stock in like the Academy Awards? Once you learn that the Hollywood Foreign Press kind of runs this thing and what their eye is towards a lot of Black roles. Because I questioned, for instance, why didn't Denzel win for Philadelphia? Another incredible performance, you know. Why not for Malcolm X? If they could put their disdain for, you know, all things surrounding, you know, him and Louis Farrakhan and all of that aside, the way that that movie was alone was Oscar worthy. The cinematography, the direction, every actor in that, Delroy Lindo, I mean, they all killed it. Angela Bassett. Nobody was, you know, really nominated like that. And everybody who did, you're not winning, you know. But you go and you portray Civil War, Glory, I think it was, you get an Oscar for that, you know. Why not Stephen Biko, you know? And he did that, I think we were like babies basically, but another good performance, you know.
Cry Freedom, yeah.
Cry Freedom, yes, yeah.
Great movie, yeah.
It bothers me because Halle Berry, I watched her, I remember her in Strictly Business. That was probably one of the first times I saw her as an actress. I was a kid and I was like, wow, she's pretty good. Then I watched her as a crackhead in this movie, you know, with Gator, Samuel Jackson, you know, and I just said, she was incredible in that movie. Why not that? You know, again, it waited until, and those still weren't even her best roles, you know, because I will watch, I guess, a white person win an Oscar for a really run-of-the-mill movie, but we can have something like Boomerang that has cultural impact across the globe, everybody. No nominations for that kind of thing, you know.
Carl,
no, I think it's getting a little dark over here. I need to turn on my light. That's what I think.
This is Black advancement, Cara. You shouldn't be saying things like that. Okay, never mind. You want to go now, or you want me to go to the guy on the couch?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, yeah, no, I don't have much to say about this part.
Okay.
I don't think, at least. Not right now.
We'll give you a second. We know you'll come back. Guy on the couch, what you got for question number 2?
All right, question number 2. Does a Black actor or actress choice in a role diminish or uplift them in your eyes? Yes or no? And why? So Chase You Down Block says their choice role doesn't impact how I view them. They are actors and actresses. They're paid to expect them to have a range of work. I would only feel they diminish themselves if they only play a buffoon or some other character who misrepresents Black. Back to you.
These are coming from Chase You Down Block. I think I got that right. Chase You Down Block. So how you guys feel about that?
I would say it. I mean, I don't think that it would, you know, like diminish it. I mean, you would like to see advancement as time goes on, you know, right? Like as, you know, as time goes on, we would like to see advancement, but unfortunately Hollywood is still white controlled. And, you know, when they control things, you know, they, again, it's the same way they control the narrative with everything else, you know. But I do like when you hear stories about, you know, actors or actresses when they actually turn down roles, you know, because, you know, they thought it was, you know, not good for their career, not good for the people, not good for the culture, right? So, I mean, I do enjoy hearing those things. You know, so, I mean, that's more, you know, that might make me think more, you know, higher of somebody, of an actor or actress, a Black actor or actress, if they turn down a role, you know, for that reason. But I do still agree, you know, sometimes people, I mean, and if that's what you're good at, that's what you're good at. I mean, I like Denzel. I watch a lot of his movies, but I do feel like Denzel is always Denzel.
Oh, yeah.
So,
not a lot
do I
told
like
that.
his movie? I mean, am I going to see probably everything that he puts out? Yes, but Denzel is always Denzel.
Yo, he made Out of Time like 3 times in a row. I could have.
So, you know.
I was like,
mean,
yo,
you know.
did he do that last year?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the different roles that actors will take and the risks that they'll take. Like, the movie doesn't get talked about a lot, but what's the guy's name? The short comedian. I forget his name.
Kevin Hart?
Kevin Hart, yeah. When he did the movie with Heisenberg, That was a decent difference in movie that he would normally do from his normal role.
Yeah.
And so I thought that something like that
was it called The Lighter's Side?
I don't remember what it was called.
He went to take
was
care
like
of
a
him in
kid.
his house.
Yeah.
No, I saw that. It was a really good
I'm
movie.
so glad you wrote this movie because this is one of those movies where I had a problem with it. This is one of those movies where I was being hypercritical, overly black, Aji, being overly black. So this movie originated in France, right? This was a French movie. This was a French movie where it's like an African dude was taking care of this paraplegic, racist white dude who was like really rich. And I think it's, you get where I'm going with this. Kind of like the whole thing where it's kind of like the servant world again. And I just didn't want to see it. So I refused to watch it. I'm probably wrong for that, but that's just me. Someone else can speak on this.
Yeah.
No, but that's the beauty of having options though, because
Yeah.
I get that. Like when I saw the Intouchables, I say, oh, it's not bad. When I saw Kevin Hart in the trailer remaking it, I was like, do I want to see this? Because I know he's going to do his Kevin Hart thing. I ended up seeing it, of course, and I said, okay, not bad, but would I see it again? No. But it's just, it depends on taste. That's like Eddie Murphy. He made Vampire in Brooklyn. There's a lot of black people who are like, Vampire in Brooklyn, and they saw the hair, and they saw Angela Bassett. I'm like, yo, I thought it was the greatest thing ever because I like that genre. I'm like, we don't get a lot of black people in horror that, aren't getting killed off in 5 minutes and, actually lead the story. And I mean, you're talking about, he brought it back, Kadeem Hardison, R.I.P. John Witherspoon,
Angela Bassett.
What is it, Alan Payne? I mean, he had,
Angela Bassett was in that joint too.
That's right, absolutely. I mean, he had everybody, and it was a really good movie.
I can't believe y'all are dogging the Upside. This is
me. You know how I am, Greg.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, like the history behind the movie aside, I'm talking specifically about like Kevin Hart doing that role.
Yeah.
I think for some people, they're looking at him like, hey, that's not your lane. You do comedy. You should stay in comedy roles. But he took more of that risk and did a serious role. And to me, he did a pretty good job at it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that's kind of one of those things where it doesn't diminish him for stepping outside of his lane and trying something different, even though the history of the movie may be a little controversial. I think him exploring that and just being an actor saying, hey, look, I have range. I can do some serious things and I could do comedy. That's, I tip my hat to them. And I would never diminish him as a person for taking that risk.
No.
Look, let me tell you something right now. They're always doing that to black comedians. They don't never let black comedians get a chance to play serious. It just started really happening with Jamie Foxx. All right, they let white comedians get away with doing everything. Tom Hanks was in the business of funny forever, and now he's like one of the most serious actors ever to be known. Jim Carrey gets to dip his toe. Michael Keaton got to be Batman. Come on.
Hold on. Wait, did you say Jim Carrey is serious?
Yeah, Jim Carrey.
He's done serious roles before.
Jim Carrey has done Jim Carrey is a very good actor. Actually.
Can y'all tell me which roles? Because I don't know about these.
Really?
What was it? What is it? Eternal Sunshine?
Yes, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. You ever seen that?
Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. There was 13. He's a couple of the Andy Kaufman joint he did.
Yes, The Moon. Yeah.
The Moon or whatever.
Nope.
They're all,
Keep going.
Man, The Moon is really but you know what I'm saying, that's a problem. And that's why if I see a black comedian trying to do serious,
is another one.
Because
So what do you guys think about Chris Rock? Because he's got some criticism about, his change in his career. And I think it's great to see him doing something.
I think it's dope.
Chris Rock, love what he does with that.
That Fargo joint is dope. Personally, if I had any power in Hollywood, the first person who I would have put as a gangster in a movie is Kevin Hart. Like Joe, like he'd be like a black Joe Pesci type of thing, where I would literally.
I can see that.
I think he could pull it off. I think he'd be fantastic at it.
But
I don't have any power.
To me, it kind of blows my mind. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Maurice.
No, I was just gonna say that it kind of blows my mind that people try to put actors and actresses in a box. Like their job is to pretend to be somebody else. Like that's your job. So who are we to tell you that you can't pretend to be anybody? That's literally your job.
But my thing
You
is,
speaking a lot of logic. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
but they only really do that to black actors. They always throw black actors in a box. That's what I'm saying. That whole thing with Kevin Hart, man, go see Upside, man. Quit being a punk. Go see it.
I think
I
a
would
lot
tell
of
you.
people get typecast. I don't think, I mean, maybe we get it more often, you know, black people, again, because we, you know, Black Hollywood is so small and it's not a lot of, you know, there's not a lot of roles for black people, you know, but I like I said, all I keep thinking about is like I say, Jordan Peele, Lovecraft Country, Get Out. I mean, all of these things, I mean, like I say, Shonda Rhimes, I mean, these people are, we showing up, you know, here lately. And I mean, I do agree that Tyler Perry is, you know, he tends to kind of stick to his lane, but he's got the most content of anybody we know that's black.
And he's done serious roles
and, I mean,
too. He's had.
He might be the one the only one in that writer's room, but he is on lots of channels. He's got tons of movies, tons of plays, employing lots of people. And that may lead to something else for other people. I mean, I think it's great. I just think it's great what we're seeing from us now.
That's the thing, Maurice. When he does serious roles, he's really good.
He is good.
That pisses me off about him doing the other stuff. Because I'm like, yo, you are obviously talented enough to do whatever you want to do. Why are you going back to that? You know, that's just me though. And I don't understand
the formula. But that's what he likes. Like, you look at athletes, like you look at a guy like LeBron, you're like, man, this guy could be really good in the NFL. Why are you only playing basketball? That's just because that's what he loves to do.
I don't know,
but
man.
Who are we to judge what a person loves to do?
That sounds different, Maurice.
I don't think it's different.
No, I agree with Maurice. I think people just do, like you say, I think that's where his heart is. That's where his career began. And I even think he even spoke about his mom, like before she died, like telling him like never stop doing Medea. But you see, he retired that character.
He's too tall. They hurt. His feet are too big. Keep especially making high heels for this nigga.
Oh my God! You know, and speaking of this, I missed the Boondocks, but when the Boondocks came back, it was horrible.
I didn't.
But
when did it come back?
A couple years ago, it came back to Comedy Central. It was not good.
It wasn't the same, yeah.
I think it was a short run, yeah.
I had no idea. Because Boondocks is like one of the illest shows like ever made. For real.
Oh yeah, the original joint? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Go ahead, Antoine, and I'm gonna squash the question. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, my bad. I just wanted to fit this in here. I think that one of the issues too is black people, we box each other in. Because even like before I ever did anything in television, it was all theater for me. You get boxed in theater. Like you said, you're playing a fictional character unless it's something that's, you know, biographical. I couldn't understand why people don't want you to take a certain kind of role because they don't think you should do it. Nothing about the story, nothing about the opportunity, nothing about your career, just you shouldn't do that. And so when I look at it, I equate it with music, right? So let's talk about women rappers for a second. So you'll have everybody criticizing like a Cardi B, right? But that's her story, that's her lane. Oh, well, you should do this with Rhapsody or whatever. And it's like, but do you even support Rhapsody? You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to support. There's lanes for everybody to do everything. And when they can't quote me a lyric, you can say the Queen Latifah and all that, but what's the song? Give me something, you know? And when you challenge people on that narrative, it's like they get choked up and quiet because they're fixated on just criticism. And I feel like we have to be able to open our minds to say, you know what? For every Saweetie, for every Cardi B, for every Rhapsody, for every Queen Latifah, Nicki, Little Kim, Remy, whoever it is, you know, we can go through the gamut. There's room for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And if you like lane one, stick with lane one. If you like lane two and door two, that's where you kind of stick your sweet spot in and what you buy and what you support. But we can't just say that, you know, oh, this doesn't exist, but out there it exists. Shonda Rhimes created a show where, I forget her name, Cassandra or something, but she's the lead basically of the show that's now on Netflix. What is it? The medical one. 15 seasons.
Grey's Anatomy?
Grey's Anatomy. I lost that. Yeah. You know, Cassandra Wilson, I think her name is, you know, but you would have people looking towards this other type of show to say, oh, well, that's coonery right there. And it's like, no, but we have other actors and actresses who are doing the kind of work that you may want to see.
So I'm going to use this opportunity to go ahead and plug the website, which is www.blackadvancement.com. one of the things that you can do when you get there is click on our debates tab. You can look at other debates that we've had in the past, such as this one, that are very wild and inspiring, and which I don't agree with anything that anybody's been saying. You can also go on and check out our recommended websites, which is one of my favorite parts actually of our whole organization, where we pump up other Black-owned businesses. Today, we'd like to focus on a newer business that's coming out. It's actually from a friend of ours, a friend of the show, and he's also got another business on there as well. But his new business is called Odd Ninja Media, and he basically does new stuff. He does graphic novels. I mean, like graphic novels and comic books. And he's coming out with a comic book soon. Should be out pretty soon. It's Christmas is coming around. You guys should go check out that website, which is oddninjamedia.com. Also, we also do books of the month. The book that we're going to highlight for this particular discussion is The Blacklist by Timothy Greenfield Sanders and Elvis Mitchells. It came out a while ago, probably like a little less than 10 years ago, but it was a book where basically they asked a bunch of famous Black people about their day-to-day lives and their rise up, and how their rise within the entertainment industry, whether it be sports, media, or entertainment as far as movies and such, how all that has been for them leading up. It's a pretty good book, actually. I recommend it. Now that leads us into our final question of the day. And anybody who wants to jump in can jump in first. Question number 3. Is the impact and influence of TV imagery overstated in terms of its effect on the Black community?
Say it again for me.
Is the impact and influence of TV imagery overstated in terms of its impact or effect in the Black community?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's overstated. Again, that was going to depend on the person, but what we see, whether it be Black or white, it affects the way people view themselves, how you view the people around you, how you think of life. Like for many people that will shape, how you view, maybe your life as a whole, and maybe even sometimes your choices. So I think we do need to be careful. And I think over the years, things have gotten more relaxed. And now I'm speaking about like in general, but like how we talked about earlier, I do miss like the shows, like how we had, A Different World before, we had the Cosby Show, all those things. And then we found out, what was going on behind the scenes. But the show was, the Cosby Show was a really good, wholesome Black show. And Good Times gave a different portrait, but it was also a nuclear family. It was still a nuclear family, even though they were impoverished, and they were still had some sort of, unity and happiness, even though they were, of low socioeconomic status. So that can say a lot, but unfortunately, we are bombarded with a lot of negative images for, African Americans. Reality TV done blew up the spot. And now you got like whole streaming services. That Zeus network or whatever is basically devoted to like the ratchet reality for Black people. And lots of folks are consuming it. Those people are making money because people like the drama.
Yeah, I think it gets too much credit. Personally, like I don't know, like, and it may just be the circles of Black people that I see and associate with, but like we can separate what we see and how we act and how we behave and just who we are. Like we can watch, like you said, the ratchet TV, the hood dramas, the thug movies and all that stuff. And it doesn't mean I'm go out there and be like, hey guys, let's go invest in a kilo of coke and start selling it. Like it's just not going to happen. Like it's just entertainment. And I think we at times give it a lot more credit than it deserves, because it's entertainment. And if that's what the generation deems as entertaining, okay. I go back to my first point though. It just doesn't show the full perspective of the Black community. It just says, oh well, you're either ratchet or you're thugs. There isn't anything else. And it's like, nah, we have an educated middle class Black collective, and we exist too. We're nerds, we're athletes, we're professionals in whatever means, we're doctors, we're lawyers, we're we do police work. Like, we do all kinds of different things. Like, there are more stories to tell than just those 3 or 4 stories that they try to, those boxes that they try to put us in.
Right.
And I don't think that any of those things have limited any of us, even on this Zoom right now. Like, I think even though us growing up, we only saw a small number of things. Like, I think Uncle Phil, up until then, like, they, you know, I guess with the Cosby Show as well, not even I guess, with the Cosby Show as well, but outside of those two, you didn't really see like that level of Black professional. Like, it just didn't happen. And so I don't know, I just don't give it that much credit. I say it is what it is. And there are going to be good shows, there's going to be bad shows, there's going to be people who allow those things to influence them, and those who can just see it for what it is, and that's just entertainment.
I agree. I don't think that it's overstated. I feel like it really can't be stated enough, the cultural impact that media, TV, film, music, everything has on our culture. For every person that's out there, like Maurice just said, where it doesn't impact them, he's not going to go start selling keys after listening to like a couple Jay-Z songs or whatever. You know, there are people who are like, hey, you know what? I want to do that. They're impacted by it in some form or fashion. And I think that we have to, one, control the narrative. When you look at something, and I know it's petty, but I think YouTube is one of the greatest things created because it allows you to put whatever you want up there. And you can build and attract an audience and a following from there. So you don't need a Hollywood studio to do that. They're building your phones now to shoot that's almost like DSLR quality. At this point now, I think it is. And it's just like, whatever you want to see, whatever you want to be, you can go out there and make those things happen. When I used to watch Family Matters growing up, and you know, you had Urkel, then you had the father that was the cop, and you know, everybody was just like, there was a sense of normalcy, there was balance there. Now I feel like when you see a lot of the shows that are out, sometimes they try to shovel certain tropes down your throat, and it's just like, you know, it's cool to see that a few times, but you know, you said one of my favorite things there, we're nerds. I think the fact that we see so few of us in those spaces on a television screen or even in the comic book area where there's a lot of it existing, but it's not pumped up. None of that is being put on Front Street. I think that part is necessary. And I think we have to become our own best mentors and kind of promoters in that kind of material and not necessarily rely on anybody else from another community to help us with the cultural impact. If you check something, and I don't have one, but you see them everywhere you go, TikTok. You know, our culture is everywhere. You know, we're not all the ways the ones performing it because other people have kind of taken from it and said, hey, here's our own. And so they get the credit for this, that, and the third, but we know where it came from, you know? So it's our job to say, hey, if this is impacting our community, well, let's impact it. And here are the different ways we can do that in.
Oh, it's on me?
Yeah.
I was listening and it got quiet. I thought it was gonna be more. My bad.
My bad.
No, you're good. I was listening. I don't think it impacts. Okay, I'll say this. This is gonna be a kind of a different take. I do believe it impacts our community, but I believe it impacts our community because it impacts the white community and how they treat us. I think that white people see this and make assumptions of all Black people, especially if they don't really know a lot of Black people and everything else. And I think what they see on that television is the reason why a lot of them treat Black people the way that they do, because they have these images of what Blacks are on television. So that's the reason for probably a lot of 911 calls that shouldn't have been made, and and fears of Black people for no reason, or just assuming the Black guy's the funny guy, or just all of these things. I think it's all impacted so much by what they see and think of us. So we're impacted by the impact that our what's the word I'm looking for? The way we're represented on TV is impacts white people, and therefore their impact on white people, the white people's impact impacts us on how we're treated. Dang, that was a lot to say. I was very tongue-tied. Thank you very much, boss. Now,
That's awesome.
that's the that I see when it comes from television. That's why sometimes when I do look at some stuff and I'm just like, that's a little bit much, because it's because I know that Black people aren't the only ones watching these shows. Because if there was only black people watching these shows, then they would be canceled in 5 minutes. It wouldn't last that long. So I know that white people are watching these shows, and then the white people are watching these shows as well. Then I know that what they see on the screen is what us, because there's a lot of white people that just don't involve themselves with black people. When I went to the Air Force, I met a girl who had never seen a black person in real life before, ever, in her entire life, with her own 2 eyes, has never seen a black person. But all she knew of blackness was what she saw on television. So those kinds of things, that's the impact that I think is more crucial to us than anything.
I'm gonna go to the website, let you guys get your thoughts together. Guy on the couch, go ahead. What you got on question number 3?
All right, question number 3. Is the impact and influence of TV imagery overstated in terms of its effect on the Black community? Jeff Secor says TV imagery is powerful all over the world. It's all consuming right now. There are certain channels that will focus in on negative Black imagery somewhat subtly. Looking at you, Fox News. And okay, maybe not so subtle. I also think that Rob has it spot on. I guess I have more questions than answers. Is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air considered negative imagery? It certainly was, quote unquote, whitewashed for prime time consumption, right? At least the character Will Smith portrayed. It didn't highlight enough that Uncle Phil was a highly educated judge, not just that he was rich. I'd love to know others' thoughts. Back to you.
That's an insightful comment from Jeff Secor. Does anyone have any response?
Yeah, I completely disagree with that. That it was whitewashed at all. Like that's Black reality. Like that happens. Like sometimes things are rough. And so when I was in high school, that literal thing happened. Like my cousin was living in a city that genuinely was getting out of control. Milwaukee, Wisconsin has been rated the worst city to raise a Black family in for many years, the absolute worst city. So my aunt and uncle saw this and saw what was going on with my cousin and sent my cousin to come live with us in Maryland. That literal thing happened. So to say that it's whitewashed or that's not a real character, I lived it. Like I literally watched it. So I think that that's ridiculous. Like you have people like that, and that difference or that change in life from going from certain cities in the Midwest and then moving to the East and you're in the suburbs. That's a huge difference, and you're gonna have those different. I don't even know how to explain it. Like you're gonna have those situations where the culture shock on both ends. They're not going to understand what you're saying, and you're not going to understand what they're saying. But to say that that's whitewashed, that's reality. Like that. I don't know. I completely disagree with that. His character was whitewashed.
That is, shout out to Brandon McCoy. Yeah, that is a true story that I can verify if anybody sit there saying
that. Yeah, I remember that.
He was a good dude. He ended up being a good dude though, man. Brandon was solid.
Good dude, solid cat.
Yeah, Brandon was solid. Anyone else have anything to say in response to Jeff Secor's? Because I thought that was an interesting response actually when I had read it. The idea of whitewashing of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Because when I actually think back to Black shows that I actually liked that came on television, like I said, I'm really hypercritical when it comes to Black shows, and I'm not really sure why exactly. I've always been that way. My brother can tell you. It might have started with Nell Carter would Give Me a Break and that whole thing. It might have started
where it started.
Yeah, because what you laughing at?
What did Nell Carter do wrong?
I don't know if you remember the premise of Give Me a Break, but I mean, like it was. I didn't like it. She was a nanny, I believe. In long and short terms, I guess that's how you could put it. Long story short, like I'm very skeptical. I think when I see characters within Black shows, right? So for him to use the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was kind of different to me because that was one of the shows I didn't associate with that. Like Good Times, for instance. Like I don't really watch Good Times like that because of Jimmy Walker, because of his character on there, and because they killed off the John Amos on the show. And the next time we saw him was on Beastmaster, which was a tragedy of its own. So that's just, that's just me. But I mean, like you know, like I know for a fact that I am hypercritical when it comes to Black shows doing stuff. Like my theory on
That's
shows.
good insight, Aji.
Look, my theory on Black shows, right, has always been, if you're putting out garbage and people go and support it just because it's Black, right? Even if it's a garbage product, you should expect more garbage Black products because they're going to believe that's what Black people like. When you get something like Atlanta, where it's like different and it's artful and then it's full of Black people, you're like, yo, that's what we should all be watching. That's what we should all be supporting, is something like that. Because then after that, you'll get more Insecures and you'll get more, you know, Luke Cages and Black Panthers and blah, 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 blah. You get all of those things, right? In my opinion, this is just my opinion. I'm not in the business. Like I said, I don't have any sway over anything. But that was the way I've always looked at it. And because I'm hypercritical, some things I don't watch that ended up being way better than I ever would have given it credit for. Some things I feel like I was completely justified for, and people love it. So I'm gonna shut up.
I mean, I think I
can't satisfy all the people all the time.
No, you can't.
I think that also when a Black show has done a good job, sometimes historically, you'll know when you get a lot of white criticism. Like Luke Cage. Luke Cage, I've always thought was an outstanding show, the Netflix one. And what happened is that there were white people complaining, oh, there's no white actors. I'm like, okay, have you been to Harlem? You know, not Morningside, but Harlem, what they're talking about. You don't see many white people, even with the gentrification that's been taking place for years now, you don't see it, you know, it's largely Black. And so when you look at the story of Luke Cage and what they're doing, it doesn't mean that white people don't exist. Because when I look at a show like Seinfeld growing up and I barely saw any Black people, it's New York City. It's one of the most diverse cities in the world, period. Yeah. People from everywhere that are brown. And when you looked at the show, did you see it? No. So why do you pick on a show like Luke Cage to decide where, hey, the narrative is good and he's a superhero and he has a goal and he's cleaning up the neighborhood, by the way.
Yeah. Right.
And
but that's because of white privilege and Karens, right? That's why, because they are not used to being on the other side. And we are. We're used to not being seen. So seeing Seinfeld and not seeing any Black people, like, okay, it's funny. That's it, right? Like, it's funny. We're not thinking about, you know, Black people should be on there. We got, you know, other shows to watch or whatever. But white people get upset when things have been changed, you know. Yeah, I could get on a whole nother soapbox about that. But you know what that is they don't want to be excluded. It's like, well, wait a minute, where are we at? It's like, well, y'all been doing this to us for years. Look around, you got every other show and movie.
Yep,
there's a guy,
but there's never such white, and it's kind of ridiculous. There was I saw an interview back in the day with Eddie Murphy when he was talking about Boomerang.
Oh yeah.
And how he caught a whole lot of flack because they were trying to figure out where the white people were in this successful business that he had. And they were just like, well, it's just not realistic because everyone in here is Black. Where are the white people? And Eddie was like, what are you talking about? It's just a movie. Just let it be what it is. So, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, I've never heard that ever in any other white movie ever in my life. Never heard those words.
Or if there's complaints about where are the Black people, like you say, have we been complaining about, you know, the Oscars and, you know, like you say, the Golden Globes and so on and so forth, they're not changing their routine for us to accommodate minorities.
I believe Roadhouse was put up for, no, not Roadhouse? Okay, never mind.
Roadhouse has never been put up for anything.
Roadhouse is the most watchable movie ever made. Don't forget it. Don't forget it.
The guy that don't watch Good Times, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Swayze. Anyway, so are there any other follow-ups to Jeff Secord's comment?
No, not really. I think Maurice summed it up best.
Oh yeah.
So man, my battery's running low, so I'm gonna have to try to run through this really, really fast. Guys, just bear with me. I'm gonna run through this as fast as I can. Okay. Plug number 3, website, www.blackadvancement.com. You can go to, we're gonna start a Zoomcast Nation where we're gonna have different shows and stuff. You might see some of the same faces here. I'm not gonna give anything away. I haven't really told them yet either, so don't worry about it. Also, donations. We are a nonprofit. I mean, guys got to give, man. I mean, www.blackadvancement.com, donations tab. I mean, go to it. Anyway, another thing that we do, Black people you should know. I'm not going to point out one right now because we're running low on time, but we got plenty of people on there. You click on the link. There's plenty of people down there that you can talk about. And also, the only reason why we made a nonprofit such as this was to offer new solutions. Matter of fact, last roundtable, I believe, Greg had come up with something that was kind of interesting that we all sat there and nodded our heads at, which was the idea of trying to come up with a way to entice some of these richer Black celebrities to have a giving week for HBCUs. So I think we're going to try to do something like that. We can organize that. But if you have another solution to curate a problem that you feel is in the Black community, please have at it, Hoss. But with all that being said, thank you for watching. Everybody, follow us on Facebook at theblackadvancement.com, or not theblackadvancement.com, but theblackadvancement. On Twitter at BA, that's capital BAINC44, or at the IG at BA_Inc_44, or at the website, which again is www.blackadvancement.com. Until the next time, Black people advance. Any shout outs out here besides Hampton University?
Shout out to me.
That doesn't.
What I get? But even better, Joe Biden. That's my shirt today.
Okay.
By a Black female designer, Carly
Okay.
Cushney.
Okay.
Nice.
Maurice? You're a dirtbag.
Nah,
All right.
I don't have anything.